Hi, and welcome back to Hill and Ponton's VA Disability Blog. I'm Natalia Joffrey, the company COO.
And I'm attorney Rachel Cheek.
And today we're going to be talking about a very timely subject, which is COVID-19 and your VA claims. And of course, we just want to reiterate, we are following this new format because we feel information is important. We want to keep putting it out there, but we also want to be respectful of social distancing and of not getting each other sick, not getting any of our employees sick. So of course, this is a new format for us, but once all of this craziness passes, we do hope to resume our usual way of seeing each other and talking about this. But hot topic for you today, Rachel, COVID-19 and your VA claim. So I guess the first burning question is, how are VA claims being handled at the RO with the ongoing pandemic?
Okay, good question.
Mhm.
So the VA is, I don't want to say operating as normal because obviously, they're having to deal with the same issues we are as well, but claims are still being processed. Appeals are being processed. The workup is continuing to happen. A lot, I know all of the regional offices, I believe, are closed to the public. People can't come in as usually could, and employees are working from home, just like we are.
Yeah.
So they are still operating. VA is still in full swing. It hasn't impacted significantly the
Yeah.
processing yet.
And that's a huge relief because I know that even for us, but right before this happened and when they started talking about shutting down states and stuff, we were like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to the VA? What's going to happen to our clients? Are we looking at a government shutdown? Is this going to basically put a freeze on everything because people are staying home? And really, luckily, we'll get into some specifics, but we're seeing that's not the case.
Mhm.
So along those same lines, because I know a lot of people are concerned, is the VA still issuing disability decisions? Are you still seeing decisions come in?
Yes, at the same pace as before, if not faster.
Really? Wow. It's funny because I attended a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of directors from ROs were in that webinar and they presented. And of course, to address a lot of these concerns that representatives have. And they were saying that a lot of their employees are even more productive now working from home because they don't have all of these distractions. There's no one to talk to at the water cooler. There's no getting up to go get some coffee and a snack, and then you talk to your coworker for a while. So they were saying that they have actually noticed a little bit of an uptick in the amount of work that's being produced. So I'm glad to hear that you're actually seeing that in the decisions you're receiving.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a lot of veterans want to know, can I still submit my VA claim, appeal, evidence, things that they would normally submit to the VA?
Yes, you are able to do that. Now, again, as I mentioned, the regional offices are closed, so you can't go in to submit paperwork, but you can do that through the mail fax process as usual.
Okay. What if they need help from the VA, and how do VSOs come into play?
That's a good question. I know, again, the VA employees are still working, but they're working from home. So I have seen that the VA does have, their helpline numbers. The regional offices are still operating. So if need be, I would suggest calling whichever regional office to determine what the best way is to get the help that you need.
They're just not taking, and I guess we should reiterate that or emphasize it, that they're not taking any walk-in traffic.
No, no walk. I mean,
Yeah,
they're not taking walk-ins. They're not taking appointments. Like you cannot go into the
physically
regional
go in.
offices. Yep.
But they're there, and and if you need to talk to someone, you can. You just need to call one of the helplines that you referenced.
Correct.
Are they on the VA website?
Yes, they are. The VA actually has on their website, I believe it's just like a banner up there with all their information regarding how COVID-19 is impacting them and what the differences are, what's still going on, what is changing, and they do have some contact numbers there.
Okay. We also are, of course, worried, as the rest of the world, or at least the US is, regarding finances, money going around and all of that. So are monthly compensation benefits still being awarded every month. Any
Yes.
concerns there? Okay.
No, that's something, I mean, that budget is set in place each year. There's no issue with the benefits going forward at this
Okay.
time.
So people are still being paid and should
Yes.
expect to continue to get paid, and cases are being approved in the meantime as well
Yes.
for payment.
I'm seeing a lot of grants and retroactive
Okay.
payments, and that's all going forward as normal.
Okay, that's all good news so far. How are CMP exams being handled during this coronavirus pandemic?
That's a great question. And this might be the biggest change that I'm seeing
Yeah.
in the day-to-day practice. So, traditionally you have a CMP exam, you go to an examination facility, you meet with the doctor, depends, doesn't matter what your condition is, you're doing it face-to-face for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, they're wanting to minimize contact between people, which is great. We don't want any examiners getting sick. We definitely don't want any veterans getting sick. So what the VA is doing for some examinations, they are still conducting them, but they're doing it either like telephonically or video like we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
For other examinations, I noticed that they mentioned that they're scheduling some contract examinations still at outside providers. Um, I don't know how long that's going to go on. I don't know how many outside providers are actually allowing that.
Yeah.
Something that they are doing in lieu of CMPs is they are looking at more of the evidence that's already of record. Rather than scheduling a veteran for a new exam for a condition, they're looking at the records that are already in the veteran's file, and most recent, maybe they're their doctor's visits, their statements, that kind of thing. They're looking more at the evidence that's already there.
That
Some
could maybe be a little bit more beneficial, do you think? Maybe?
I think so, because I don't tend to see
Mm-hmm.
great results from CMP examiners. A lot of
Right.
times when we're making an argument, we're arguing the only negative piece of evidence is this CMP exam. Look at everything else in
Right.
the file.
Right.
So it may have benefits for veterans down the line, not having to go to these unnecessary exams. However, there are a few hiccups that we're coming across. There are several cases that I can think of off the top of my head in which service connection has been granted, but a rating hasn't been assigned yet because they can't schedule a CMP exam. So on an
Mm-hmm.
initial condition, initial grant of service connection, you want an examination to see the status of the condition, how bad it is. But if we're not able to conduct exams, that poses a problem. So
Right.
I can see that that can cause some delays down the line, not being able to
Okay.
schedule the examinations.
Okay. You and I in past videos, we've talked about the importance of CMP exams and the importance of attending those exams,
Mm-hmm.
above all else, no matter how good of a reason why you don't want to go. But obviously, we keep talking about the new normal. And I think this is part of the new normal, that you may really have a situation where either you're sick and can't attend it, because God forbid, you've contracted COVID, but we're also seeing where you're having to take care of a spouse or a child or some family member, whatever, because they're sick.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other thing is, if you are scheduled for an in-person exam and you're fearful, you don't want to go into the doctor's office right now, which I wouldn't blame you.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to that? What if you can't attend a scheduled CMP exam?
I would say for now, I'm seeing that the VA is being more lenient than in the past as far as missed exams. They are understanding of the situation. This is unprecedented. This isn't something, I had an exam, I just don't want to go. I had an exam, but I don't want to contract a deadly disease or potentially deadly
Yeah,
disease. I can't,
right.
leave my family member alone. I don't have any way there's no public transportation right now.
Right. Oh gosh, yeah, that's another one. I hadn't even
Hmm.
thought of that.
Things
Yeah.
like that. And so the VA is saying that they're not penalizing veterans for missing CMP exams. However, I would suggest, rather than just not going, if you know you're scheduled for an exam, you're not going to be able to go, or you are fearful, which makes total sense. I would recommend calling the contractors first,
Hmm.
and to get a rescheduling of your exam, or at least like a postponement, something to maybe to let them know, give them a heads up. It's easier to reschedule or to let them know ahead of time that you aren't going to be there than having to deal with it being scheduled, you missing it, and then having to kind of fix it in the back.
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on with the BVA? Are they still working on VA claims?
They are still working. All of the regional office, the BVA, and the CAVC, the Court of Veterans Appeals, are
Hmm.
all still working. However,
Okay.
the main difference I've noticed from normal procedure is that in-person hearings are being either canceled, postponed, or at the regional office where we would have if a veteran's requested an in-person hearing, we're getting a lot of calls to switch those to telephonic conferences.
Okay.
Which we do all the time, and in that case it's a little more, they call them informal conferences.
Hmm.
It's not as formal as a in-person hearing. We're
Hmm.
just talking with the VA employee and letting them know what we believe the evidence in the case is and what
All
we're
that.
asking for. It allows us to present our argument to
Okay.
them, not in person.
So their hearing necessarily won't be canceled. They won't have to start all over again. They don't go to the back of the line. I
Mhm.
I mean, people have significant concerns, and rightfully so. What if my hearing was scheduled in the middle of all of this, and they're afraid that if they missed a hearing, they're going to have to go to the back of the line and, wait another long time. So they're making accommodations for all of those situations.
Yes, while they are being postponed, it's not like others are jumping in front of them. Everything is being postponed and pushed back a bit, but you're still, your claim is still active, provided it was active before. The appeals aren't being taken off just because of COVID. I will
Hmm.
say, I have had, let's see, I had a veteran with a hearing with the BVA scheduled for last week and one scheduled for this week. Both of those clients got their hearings moved back to June. So it looks like, then that was at the board. So it looks like the board might be operating on a 2-month delay as far as
Hmm.
hearings go at this point. Now, just because the hearing is postponed, I do want to say this, doesn't mean that you can't continue to submit evidence.
Okay.
Um, or to continue to strengthen your claim. I mean, they're still receiving information. We do most of our hearings through writing anyway. We don't always attend the hearing. So that's something, it's not like your entire claim is being put on hold. It's that hearing that is being postponed. In the meantime, you can still develop evidence.
Okay, great. What about deadlines? Are deadlines being moved? Are grace periods being given? How are those being handled?
So the VA says that they're offering some flexibility with deadlines as far as filing appeals or perfecting a claim. Just dealing with the VA, they don't tell you how long they're offering. There's a number to call if you find that this is something that might be affecting you. But I would
Hmm.
just say dealing with the VA on a day-to-day basis and them not giving strict guidance as to how long they're allowing this delay or extension of time for filing. I would say just go ahead and if you can get everything done, don't assume that you're going to be granted any grace
Yeah.
period. They're saying they are, and I don't imagine they want the look, once this kind of settles down of a bunch of angry veterans whose claims got denied based on late filings when the VA said they would extend the filings. But just to be safe, I would continue to operate with the normal deadlines of every
You,
appeal.
you don't want to be in for another fight, right? It's hard enough as is to process these claims. I mean, obviously, if you're in a situation where you really can't file an
Mhm.
appeal, you know, I think that that's where they're saying, we're going to give you some grace. But they're probably going to look at them on a case by case basis.
Exactly. If
And
you're in
that's
the
why they're not
hospital,
coming out. Yeah. And they're not saying, everyone's going to get a 30-day extension. They're not saying anything like that. So there's nothing
exactly.
we're going to be able to go back and cite, right? Because normally you can say, well, they meet this exception, they fall under this criteria. You don't have that. It's all kind of loose. And
Exactly. No
yeah.
specific guidelines.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned hospital because one of the big questions is if a veteran gets COVID-19, can they be treated at a VA hospital you know,
For the condition.
for
I
the
know
condition?
of no reason why not.
Okay.
Of course, as with any health crisis, try to minimize your time if you don't absolutely have to go to seek medical attention.
Yeah.
You don't want to expose yourself more than necessary, but of course, if you do need that medical care, that is something that the VA would provide.
Okay. All right. Great. So let's say, God forbid, you do get it. Can you get an increase in service-connected benefits if you get coronavirus and you already had a pulmonary condition? And let's say now it's been aggravated or
Mhm.
worsened because you now contracted this disease. Is that possible?
I haven't dealt with any yet firsthand, but I do not see any reason why not. If
Mm-hmm.
you're already service connected and your condition worsens, you can always file a claim for increase. I don't think it necessarily matters how that condition, worsened,
Mm-hmm.
especially something like a lung condition that already predisposes you to uh, acquire conditions like this.
Yeah, yeah. We had previously talked to attorney Allison Reddick, your coworker, and
Yes.
we were talking about, how people that have been exposed to like burn pits, and, other like Gulf War syndrome that already have like immunosuppressive disorders and
Mhm.
pulmonary conditions inherently. So obviously, if you get this, that could be a really, really bad combination.
Mhm.
So hopefully if that were to happen, they should be able to then probably get an increase in their service connected benefits as a result, right?
They could certainly, let's say, I never want to say they could definitely get, never know with the
Yeah, I
VA, they
know.
could
I
definitely
deal in
apply.
absolutes and you all deal in abstract. Yes, this is
Yes,
true. Uh-huh.
exactly. But yes, there would be no reason that you couldn't apply for
Right.
increased rating based on that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Any thoughts, the million dollar question, any thoughts on how long this will last? And I
I,
know.
if I knew, I'd be a talking head on TV and not YouTube.
That is for sure. Yeah. This is what we call the new normal, right?
Exactly. And so there's, while there's no way of knowing how long it's going to last, how everything's going to shake out, we have been adapting to the new normal, as you say.
Hmm.
We just spent talking about the VA, the appeals process is still ongoing. We are still working. The VA is still working. So there's, nothing to do but keep going.
Yeah, I know. And that's great. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because we are fully operational. We were never even down an hour, much less
Hmm.
a day. We were able to disperse our employees and just keep on working as if though we didn't miss a beat. So as far as processing claims goes, so I'm grateful that we were able to do that. And I guess we should just tell people that if they have questions, if they have concerns, they can visit our website, they can call our office, and we have more information on there, and we're here to help them.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining us. We hope you'll do so again. And like we said, if you have any questions, feel free to visit our website or call our office.